Hey, guitar players! Have you ever wanted to make professional looking guitar chord charts? Well, with CorelDRAW, you can do just that. Hi, welcome to CorelDRAW Techniques. My name is John Allred. For some of you, the question might be, why would you want to make guitar chord charts with CorelDRAW? You might be a teacher. You might want to make online charts for flashcards. You might be writing an ebook or maybe an online course. Or maybe you just want to make your study of music theory a little easier. Well, let's take a look at some chord charts. Okay, I've prepared a few versions of this same chord. As you may know, if you've played guitar at all for any time, there are a variety of ways to display chord charts. There's no one set way to do it. I'll just show you a few. Some people show it with a chart that actually looks like a guitar fingerboard, complete with strings that go from large to small. Sometimes they use the same thing to make scales. Once we've gone through this tutorial, you can do the same. Now, the most common type of chord charts that you'll see in music books is this. You'll have a chord name up here at the top, and then usually a box with 6 strings and 4 frets. And then it'll show how to finger the chord and what fret that chord is made on. There's another variant. This is what I'm going to use today. It'll be a combination of this and the one with the strings. But it'll show the chord name, and then it'll show fingering, 1, 3, 4, and then the root note. Will it be indicated by a square, or it might be a colored circle? All right, so this is a fingering chart. Go up here and get the page. And I have a red circle indicating the root note of the chord. The first finger would play this string, then the second, third, and fourth fingers would play these strings. For black and white, this might not work. It would just appear to be like any of the other ones. So what I'm going to use and recommend for you if you're just printing to a black and white printer is to use this one with a square. Other ways of doing this, we'll show you in a little bit, is to include the scale tones. So this would be the first, the seventh, flat third, and flat fifth, and include the notes. And in the same chord, it's a D flat, B, E, and G. And in these other two, the scale tones and the notes, I'm also including what's common for a lot of chord charts, which is the fingering. So this will show 1, 3, 4, and 2 up here at the top. That is just like this one, but it doesn't have those numbers up top. Are you ready to make a chord chart? All right, well, let's start with a brand new file. New, and I want to start with the 8.5 by 11 page in Portrait. If you don't already have your object manager showing here, then I'll show you how to open it. Go to Window, Dockers, and Object Manager, and that'll open it. And another way to get there is to click the Object menu and then go down to Object Manager. Next, I want to make my grid and ruler set up. So if you don't have rulers turned on, then you want to go down here and select View Rulers. I'm going to turn guidelines off because I don't need those. But I do want alignment guides and I want dynamic guides. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. Now I'm going to get to the grid from my ruler. So right click on the ruler, select grid setup, I want my grid to be 4 grid lines per inch, both horizontal and vertical. I want snap to grid and show grid. And that's going to make kind of a busy page, but we'll turn this off in a little. That's got us set up. So let's make our chart. I'm going to go to the polygon tool, click, and then select graph paper. You'll notice that brings up an information box here, and if you don't already have your property bar turned on, then click to turn it on. All right, so I've got my grid selected, and in this tutorial I'm going to use a 5 box wide by 7 box tall grid. I want it about 2/3 the size of the page, so let me select up in this area, about here, and I'll make it like that. Next, I'm going to click on the grid and select the pick tool. I want to make this 5 inches wide by 7 inches tall. Next, I want to go up to the top corner of my ruler and click and drag the 0 point and set that right on top of my grid. You'll notice that sets 0 at the top and on the side for the box. Look a little closer. I'll zoom in for you here and show you. The boxes in the grid are square, and they each have 4 boxes side to side and top to bottom, and it's all snapped. This is going to help when we start putting things on the lines. They'll snap to these points like that. See that? It says midpoint. So let me go back out to page. I'm not going to need my grid to show anymore, so I'm going to take that. I'm no longer going to show it. And let's save our file. I'm going to call mine Chord, and I'll replace it. Now I'm ready to create some shapes and text, get the chart created. First of all, I want my all of my text, or most of my text, to default to 36 points. I'm going to use Arial and a couple other typefaces, but let's set this as our default, 36. Click Artistic Text. And I also want my text centered, all of it. Select Artistic Text, on. Okay, now I have only one layer right now, and I want to protect the grid. If I have something on the screen and I try to click and drag, I'm fine as long as I don't click on top of the grid. But if I were to try to select something situated right here, click and drag across it, my grid moves. So I need to protect that. I'm going to do that by, see, an extra click gives me rename, so I'm going to change that to grid. That's really imaginative, isn't it? All right, I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to call that objects. And my grid is on the grid layer. I want to lock that. And you see how that's on that layer. Now, if I go back to objects layer and I try to click and drag, I don't upset my grid. So the things that I want to start creating, I set my defaults for text. Let's create the chord name up here. This is going to be a little bit larger. D minor 7 flat 5. And I'm going to make that 48. That's the only one that's different. All right. Press F8. I'm going to pretty that up with another typeface. All right, so that's B. I'll select it. And you may not have this typeface installed. Windows 10, when it first came out, came with musical symbols installed. Since then, Microsoft has removed it. I don't know why, but if you don't have it, I'll provide a link down below in the description for a web address where you can download this typeface. If you want to follow along with this available, then go ahead and stop, find that address, and install this in Windows for yourself. I'm going to assume from this point on that you do have it installed and just move forward. I have my B selected, click musical symbols, and now you see I have a flat sign. Now, a few other things that I'm going to need. Let me click on text. I want an X or a cross to indicate muted notes. So with my text positioned here, let's go back up to text, insert character. It'll bring up a new Docker. I want to have, you probably will have, I don't know, Arial. You might have musical symbols selected, who knows. But you want to select Wingdings 2. I've already selected it, so it's in my most recent selections up here at the top. You'll have to scroll down. When you do scroll, come down to the point where you see the, come down to where you see the crosses here, and double click on the second one. That's about the right boldness, and that'll insert it here. Now, I don't need this Docker anymore, so I'm going to remove it. I like to keep my Docker list over here kind of neat and clean. Now, I need another number, and this is going to be, I'm going to make this a 12. Control space, and I'm going to select Times New Roman and move that down here. This is going to become my 12th fret here in a few minutes. All right, I need one more element of text. I'll make that 1, and that's what I'm going to need. All right, let's make some shapes now. I want a rectangle. This will probably snap to the size I need. Nope, I didn't. All right, so I want 0.75 wide by 0.75 tall. I want to fill that black. I want a circle. This may snap, may not. Nope. So I want that 0.75. 0.75. I also want that one black. So now I'm ready to make some notes. This is going to be a fingering. So these are numbers. This one is going to go on top of this because this is going to be my first. That didn't center. All right, so I want the number to be white. So I made my shapes after my number, so I need to push this up to the top. While I have it selected, click Shift, Page Up, and that's on top. I will select both of those, and then click C and E to center them. I want another number, and this is going to be 4. No, it's going to be 3. Put that in the center. That's also going to be page up. That's 3, and I want that to be white. C, E. Okay, so I'm selecting both of these because they're not grouped. I'm going to put this on the 10th fret. So that's also on the 10th fret. That's 3. Now I'm going to duplicate it. And duplicate it again. All right. So I've got the text selected. Press F8. Back over that. Make it 4. Text enters there, so we're good. All right. So those are the fingerings that I want for this. Now I'm going to finish out the fingerboard. This is the 12th fret. Remember, I'm putting my chord on the 10th fret here. I'm going to duplicate that, go down to the 9th fret, and notice the 3 lines going between the two 12s here. That comes from the dynamic guides that I had you add previously. All right, so that's 9. Let me press F8. Go ahead and make it 9. Control space bar. Select. All right, and that's going to be 7th fret. A couple other shapes I need to add. Go to circle. This needs to be 0.5 square. Didn't make it, so enter 0.5 and 0.5. Enter. And I want these to be 30% black. So set the fill and then right click for the outline. And these are going to go down here. Duplicate. That I believe is centered. Duplicate again. Okay. And let's move that to the 9th fret. Get it right? Yep. Duplicate again. All right, put that on the 7th fret. Now, let's duplicate this and put it over here on the first string. You see I've got my 3 lines between them lined up. So, the first chord looks to be done. Let's go back to our original and make sure. 12th fret, put the chord on the 10th fret, 1, 3, 4, 2. All of those are done. Yep, we're good. Okay, now you see how to create a chord. That's the fingering. Next we're going to do the scale tones, and then we're going to create a version with notes. Now to make these, you're going to want to create a lot of charts probably once you start. To do that more easily, what you need to do is make all the variations of these that you need. You're going to use, for fingers, you're going to use 1 through 4, so you don't need too many of those. But sometimes the second finger will go on the root. And of course, we indicate a root with a square. You want a version of the 2 with a square behind it. Same for 3 and 4. And then when we get to notes here in a minute, you're going to want to be able to put your notes. Just click and drag a note and drop it where you want it. A whole lot faster than creating these things from scratch. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. Let's create a new page. Duplicate. Copy layers and their contents. All right, so I've got this. Let's rename this so I can keep up with it. Rename, and this is fingering. Right click on that, rename. This is scale tones. And then the next one I'll make in a minute, that's going to be notes. All right, let's go back to the original. Let's go back to the original file I had here. I previously created a page called symbols. And this is what I was telling you before. All these symbols that I'm going to use in charts are here. Now, I recommend that you go ahead and make your own, but I'm going to put this online, and so if you want to save yourself some time and download it, as long as you're using the same scale on your page, the way we set this up originally, then these will work for you. But anyway, if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to copy this, go back to my Chord document. Now I'm going to paste and then move these off to the side. Move my page over a little bit. I'm going to make scale tones, so let me delete these. So these are grouped. All of these are grouped. Now, if you're making multiple chord charts and you want to keep this intact, then for each one you select, just do a Control D to duplicate it, and then drag your duplicated item over. I want to snap that on the 10th fret. I'm going to have a 7th. Duplicate that. That snaps. I want a flat 3. And a flat 5. There we go. And I can quickly add the fingering for this chord this way. Actually, I'll just do all of these at one time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And just that quick, that scale is completed. Much faster than the first one. So let's create another page. Right click, duplicate, copy layers and objects. Rename notes. Okay. Let's remove these. And I think we may leave those this time. Okay, so we're ready for our notes. I want a D. I want a C. An F. And an A flat. And the third chord is complete just that fast. One other thing I forgot. We don't need it in these charts I'm making because there are no open notes, but I want to also add a symbol for an open note that would go, say if you had this chord and you played an open string, that would have what looks like a 0, but it's also a symbol. So click on A, go over here, text, insert character. I want, once again, Wingdings 2, and I'm gonna scroll down until I find this character and double click that. Now you think that might be an O or a 0, but it's not. And it's not just, I mean, I could make this with a, probably with a circle as a shape, but this just as good. That completes, pretty sure that completes all of them. If you were actually creating new chords, you want to go ahead and clean up your pages. So let's delete these. And that deleted them off the other pages too. When they're off of the actual page, or what Adobe calls a pasteboard, they're common to all of the pages. That's gone. Sometimes chords need to be barred. That means that sometimes one finger needs to spread across more than one string in order to play more than one note. I've created an extra page here to show a D minor 7th. You have a couple of ways, three ways to do this. You can take a straight line and you can put that in there. That's one way of doing it. You can also make a shape like this. That needs to go down also. And that's made by using the rectangle tool. And you get to whatever size you think you need, pretty close. And then you press the shape tool, click and drag a corner, and then you've got the shape like you need it. And finally, there is the curved bar, and that one's fairly easy to make also. This time, let's use the 3-point curve, and we're going to go from right here. Let me see. Click and drag. Goes right there, and then let go of the click and pull the cursor up to this point, then click. That's fine. It's not very easy to see though. You change the shape of that by going up to Effects, Artistic Media, and then you scroll down. Because you have the line selected, these are displayed, and you scroll down to what looks like the shape you want. And that's it. If you need, let's say you had 3 notes. You had 3 notes and you were barring with your 3rd finger, then you might do it this way. And once again, go over here to this shape, and you see how you could make that quickly and easily. You don't need to keep these as shapes to drop in because they're so easy to make. All right, that's barred chords. Here's one more thing I meant to include and I forgot. I showed you earlier where some chord charts are made where the strings are indicated. You have thick strings going down to thin strings like you would find on a guitar. And I meant to show you how to do that, and I didn't. So let's go to, let's see, we're on the fingering page here. I'll go to the Object Manager for fingering page. We'll click on Grid, and I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to lock objects, and I don't want to see it. So I only highlight the grid. Let's make the grid lines 8 picks. We're going to draw 2-point lines. So let's click here, drag down, let go. Click here, drag down, and let go. 3, 4, and 5. We're only drawing 5. We're going to let the last string have the thickness from the whole grid. Now I want to highlight this first string, and I'm going to make that 42 points. Highlight the next one. That one is 36 points. Next one is 30 points. G string is 22 points. And the B string is 16 points. Now I'm going to lock the grid. I'm going to show objects again and unlock that. All right. And so this is how the chord charts would appear with the strings indicated with their gauges. Just an extra for you if you wanted to create your chord charts that way. All right, so if you got good, useful information out of this, I hope you'll take time to click the like button down below. Also, click subscribe and hit the bell, and you'll be notified of any future videos that I make. That's assuming that you like the content and you want to come back and see it again. I do hope you will. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next video.